Before the world knew them as the Silent Twins, June and Jennifer Gibbons were inseparable sisters bound by an intense and unsettling connection. They shut out everyone else, creating a private world where only they existed, and their silence became their shield. Born in 1963 in Barbados, they later moved to Haverfordwest, Wales, in search of a better life. But instead, they faced racism, bullying, and isolation as the only black children in their community experiences that pushed them further into their own closed-off world. Where other children might have sought comfort in friends or teachers, June and Jennifer turned inward, and then they turned toward each other. At some point, something shifted. The twins began to withdraw, not gradually, but with a kind of deliberate finality. They stopped speaking to classmates.
My name is June Alison Gibbons, and I have a twin sister called Jennifer, and we're known as Silent Twins.
Then to teachers. Eventually, they stopped speaking to almost everyone. Almost. They still spoke to each other. But even that communication became strange. They developed a rapid, almost incomprehensible way of talking, a rhythm and pattern so unique that even their own family struggled to understand it. To outsiders, it sounded like gibberish. To them, it was everything. It was their language, their code, their escape. Teachers tried to intervene. Specialists were brought in. There were attempts to separate them in school, hoping independence might break their silence. Instead, the separation seemed to break something deeper. When apart, they became catatonic, barely moving, barely responding, as though they could not function as individuals. It became clear they were not just close. They were dependent in a way that defied normal understanding. As they entered adolescence, their isolation deepened into something more structured, almost ritualistic. They spent most of their time locked away in their shared bedroom, shutting out the world entirely. But inside that room, something remarkable and disturbing was happening. They wrote endlessly. Their notebooks filled with stories, poems, and elaborate narratives. These weren't light or playful tales. Their fiction was dark, often violent, and saturated with themes of rejection, control, and revenge. In one of June's stories, a young boy, shunned by society, spirals into violence. The parallels to their own lives were impossible to ignore. Jennifer's writing, on the other hand, revealed something more volatile. In her stories and diary entries, June was often portrayed as an adversary, a rival, even an enemy. There were confessions of anger, jealousy, and at times, chilling thoughts of harm. June, too, wrote of Jennifer in ways that hinted at control and suffocation. Their bond, once a refuge, had become a prison. Despite their silence, the twins were not entirely disconnected from reality. They attempted, in their own way, to reach out. They sent their writings to publishers, hoping for recognition. It was a quiet contradiction. They rejected the world, yet longed to be seen by it. But rejection followed them here as well. Their work went largely unnoticed, and something inside them began to fracture further. By their late teens, the tension between them and within them erupted into rebellion. They began experimenting with alcohol and drugs. Their behavior grew erratic, impulsive. Influenced by an American boy they had become fixated on, they drifted into petty crime. Then, the crimes escalated. Arson, vandalism, theft. One of the most notable incidents involved setting a tractor on fire, a symbolic act of destruction that mirrored the chaos building inside them. In 1981, at just 18 years old, June and Jennifer were arrested and convicted. But instead of being sent to prison, they were deemed mentally unfit and transferred to Broadmoor Hospital, one of the UK's most notorious psychiatric institutions. They would remain there for nearly 12 years. Broadmoor was not a place of healing. For the twins, it became something closer to a nightmare. The environment was rigid, controlled, and often harsh. Patients were heavily medicated, and the treatment methods were, at times, severe. For June and Jennifer, whose identities were already fragile, the impact was devastating. They were often separated, something that triggered extreme psychological distress.
Write books. There's something to be proud of, isn't it? We can't speak, can't contribute in a normal way, we do it in a different way. write books and be bestsellers and let our family feel proud of us. Now the twins have written books and famous and it's so nice. We wondered what would happen to us if we didn't speak. Because when we were 16, we were in our bedroom and we weren't mixing like other teenagers, going out, nightclubbing and going to discos. So we wondered where we would end up, whether we would end up staying in our bedroom right through our 20s, writing books, or whether we would go out, make friends, and get married and have kids. It wasn't to be, was it?
Jennifer, in particular, suffered physically. The powerful antipsychotic medications caused severe side effects, including blurred vision and lethargy. Their journals from this period paint a bleak picture: despair, anger, and a crushing sense of entrapment. June would later describe those years as hell. And yet, even within that hell, their bond endured. They lived in eerie sync, moving, eating, and existing as one. But beneath it, something darker grew: a decision. When journalist Marjorie Wallace gained their trust, they revealed a chilling pact they believed only one could live freely, and one had to die.
I felt that June would cope better with the separation because she was the more malleable, because she seemed to, of the two of them, have a few inner resources, whereas I felt that Jennifer had no inner resources whatsoever.
I said, why me? My whole life is why me. Why me to be the one that has to do this and that first? So I say, I'm not leaving the home to get a coffin first. Why me first? Why going to take Jennifer first?
Having laid on the bed, she would sit crying in a sort of catatonic state with liquid from her nose and her eyes and her mouth hanging in a great beard down to here, with the unit staff mopping her face, not speaking, not going to the toilet. I mean, obviously, we had to say, you know, enough's enough. People said the twins' behaviour is a game. It was very obvious that nobody was enjoying the game. Certainly the adults around them could see where it was going to lead them. And you could see from the film that the girls couldn't break out of it. It was the extreme distress that June displayed that led to the breakdown of the separation. We failed them, but I can't really, casting my mind back, think what else we could have done.
Jennifer accepted that role. Soon after, she became distant and withdrawn, as if quietly preparing for her end, slowly fading before anyone could understand why. Then came March 1933. The twins were being transferred to a lower security facility in Wales, a move that should have marked the beginning of a new chapter. During the journey, Jennifer turned to June and said something that would echo long after her death. "I'm going to die." Shortly after arriving, she did. Jennifer's death shocked everyone. The official cause was acute myocarditis, a rare inflammation of the heart, but there had been no prior indication that she was physically ill. No warning signs. No clear explanation. For many, it felt impossible to separate her death from the pact the twins had made. It was as if Jennifer had willed it into reality. And then something extraordinary happened. June spoke. Not in fragments, not hesitantly, freely. After years of near total silence, she began communicating with ease as though a barrier had been lifted. She described feeling free. The transformation was immediate and undeniable. Within a short time, June was deemed stable enough to be released. She re-entered society, moving closer to her family and beginning a life that had once seemed impossible. In later years, June reflected on her sister with a mixture of love, resentment, and sorrow. She acknowledged the complexity of their bond, the way it had both protected and destroyed them. June believed Jennifer's death was the only way she could truly live. Even after her release, their story continued to haunt the world, inspiring works like The Silent Twins and the film The Silent Twins. What made them unforgettable wasn't just their silence, it was what it meant, a bond so intense it erased identity and demanded sacrifice. For Jennifer, it ended in death. For June, it was the start of freedom,